Over the past 4 years of Classic, we've watched you master the vanilla experience, and we've loved it. So much, in fact, that we thought we'd add some unique flavor with a seasonal note.
With a seasonal note.
Ah, shit. Here we go again.
Whether you talk about Classic 2019, Season of Mastery, Season of Discovery, or Classic Plus, there is one thing they all have in common and that we can all agree on. They have to respect the original spirit of vanilla. That can sound pretty vague if you're not obsessed with the game and haven't spent tens of thousands of hours playing it over the last few years, but luckily I am exactly that kind of degenerate, so I can quickly explain what the spirit of vanilla is in broad terms very quickly. It's about the world being the main character, not the player. It's about the world existing not in a way that's convenient for us, but in a way that makes sense and feels immersive. It's about the leveling experience that, while not enjoyable for everyone, feels like a journey and an adventure for those who enjoy that kind of gameplay. It's about a world that feels dangerous enough that you always have to respect it, but not so dangerous that exploring it and interacting with it stops being fun. It's about social interaction, needing other people for difficult quests, getting a lot of value out of being part of a guild, and classes being designed in such a way that you're never enough to do everything on your own, but you're always bringing something valuable to the group. And it's about your progress and time investment mattering, not being invalidated by the next content drop, the world remaining a continuous entity instead of being abandoned and forgotten at some arbitrary point. These are, in my opinion, the core pillars of vanilla World of Warcraft broadly. Well, Season of Discovery looked at them, went took a shit on them, got a bit confused, ate a bit of that shit in confusion, maybe a bit of excitement too, got poisoned and fell to the ground and died. The so-called experiment, which only became an experiment after they started adding dumb stuff to the game like Nightmare Incursions, was, in my opinion, pretty bad. And honestly, I don't buy this whole "it was an experiment for Classic Plus" narrative. Sure, in a sense it was. They're obviously going to learn lessons from that, and it will be useful when they eventually make Classic Plus, but come on. They only started talking about it being an experiment and hitting us with the "it's just a prank, bro," when Nightmare Incursions almost killed the whole game. Before that, not a word. They never used the word experiment, and I think it's simply that they wanted to make another seasonal server and this is what they imagined would be cool. And even if it was an experiment, trying something like Nightmare Incursions in Classic WoW is like trying to experiment with a campfire inside an explosives factory. Is that something anyone with a functioning brain would consider worth testing? But anyway, the first time I realized I wasn't going to like Season of Discovery was during BlizzCon, the moment I heard the word seasonal. I will never understand Blizzard's obsession with seasons. I think they're inferior to most other MMO design philosophies, although they can work in modern MMOs, but even there, I personally don't like them that much. And Blizzard is clearly obsessed with keeping their games seasonal. Retail is a seasonal grindfest where long-term progression will never exist again, and the game world is constantly reduced to whatever tiny slice of content happens to matter this patch. But why the hell would you apply the same philosophy to old school MMOs? Old school MMOs all share a few core traits. It's simply how games used to be designed back then, and if you ask me, they were much better for it. But one of those traits is that they can become your home for years. Your progress isn't constantly invalidated, your time isn't ignored, it will always matter, you do not get reset every few months. Vanilla WoW, Old School RuneScape, Lord of the Rings Online, EverQuest, all of them. But the only one that keeps insisting on seasonal garbage is World of Warcraft, a game mode where your progress is guaranteed to not matter a year later, and where you know from day one that the server isn't even intended to survive long term. Imagine any MMO from any year advertising itself like this: "Yo guys, come play our awesome MMO. Just so you know, we're stopping the whole thing in a year and then we're fucking off." It's such a stupid concept that not even retail does it to this degree. Okay, OSRS has leagues, sure, but leagues are cooler than Season of Discovery, first of all, and more importantly, they exist alongside RuneScape's equivalent of Classic Plus, which has been actively developed for years because Jagex is not Blizzard, and because it is not Blizzard, They are not so out of touch, and it does not take years to do what private servers did years ago with a fraction of their resources. Leagues are accelerated servers where everyone starts fresh, progression is dramatically sped up, and all sorts of crazy mechanics are enabled. And by the end you earn league points for cosmetics, rankings, you get trophies, and other rewards based on how well you performed. But the main game always remains the main game. Leagues are just a fun side activity that you can also use to show off in the main game, but not for progression. Meanwhile, we World of Warcraft players only get the side activity, and it's not that good either, because Blizzard somehow still cannot figure out what people actually want. But okay, let's imagine that Classic Plus already exists and Blizzard isn't completely out of touch. Would Season of Discovery be something I would like to check for fun then? Still, absolutely no, because in my opinion, the game is far closer to retail than it was to Classic. First of all, the level bracket bullshit. What is the point exactly? Like many Classic WoW players, I actually enjoy leveling. I know, weird, huge surprise. So now I cannot even do that because I have to stop at level 25 and raid log for months. One of the biggest problems Classic has to solve is that once you hit 60, the game is basically over and you start raid logging. Season of Discovery looked at that problem and generously delivered the exact same experience at level 25, and then again at 40, and then again at 50, and then again at 60. Hell yeah! So I go and raid BFD, which honestly is pretty cool, but after 2 hours I'm done. I log off. I don't really like having alts. Never have, and even if I did, what exactly is the solution here? Raid log on 10 characters instead of 1? I don't know, man, call me crazy, but I decided to pass on that. And what if I stop at 25 and never raid? What will I lose? Well, nothing, who gives a fuck? As I said, this is more retail than Classic. You level a bit slower after that for a while, but then you hit 40 in a few days and end up right next to everyone who spent tens, maybe hundreds of hours at 25 making their character as powerful as possible. Raid logging at level 25 and the opportunity to invest heavily into a character whose progress will be invalidated later. Yes! Yes! That is exactly what I want. In fact, I hope Classic Plus just deletes my Battle.net account every time a new patch drops, so I don't just lose my character progression, but I lose everything. You know what? I hope they find a way to sell my house too, so I have to grind in real life to afford a new one, buy a new computer, get food and start leveling again. That would be dope as hell. I swear to God that's how some players and especially WoW developers seem to think. Can we fucking stop this bullshit? Just give us a game where our progress isn't constantly being pissed on. I want to know that whether I play 10 hours or 10,000 hours, if I decide to take a break and come back later, those hours still matter just the same. I want to feel like I'm still 10 hours or 10,000 hours ahead of someone who just started playing. Blizzard only managed to do that once, and that was vanilla. It wasn't true in TBC, it wasn't true in Wrath, not in Cataclysm, not in any other expansion, and it wasn't true in Season of Discovery. Okay, but what if you wait until level 60 is unlocked and start playing then? Fair enough, that does lessen the problem. The issue is that the game still has a ton of other problems. Let's start with the leveling, a huge part, objectively, of what made vanilla great. As I said, I'm a one character guy. I've always mained a priest, so for Season of Discovery, I did exactly that again. I can't speak for every spec, but Shadow was busted as hell and made leveling feel more like I was leveling in Cataclysm than in a vanilla setting. And I wasn't even hunting down some insane rune setup. I grabbed a few random runes I stumbled upon, the one that summons 3 little void dudes, a random damage over time spell, I don't know what that was, and a buff to my renew. That's all I had by the time I reached Hillsbrad Foothills. This is where I usually take a break and just grind for a level or 2 by farming the farmers, you know the spot. It's a good XP, decent raw gold, lots of cloth, I just like doing it. In vanilla, I pull one mob, kill it, then move to the next. In Season of Discovery, I was an absolute god. I don't have footage of it, but I could dot everything in sight, abuse the fence to break the mob pathing, and never stop moving and just kill. Pause only to loot the tens of dead farmers before their corpse despawns. I was better than a vanilla mage, never dying, never stopping. I could solo difficult quests without any problem. Elites were a joke, big packs of mobs were a joke. Again, hell yeah, that's what vanilla is all about. And remember, this wasn't even me min-maxing. I don't know what other runes I could have picked, but the one buffing my healing clearly wasn't carrying me here because I wasn't taking really any damage. So I could have been much stronger, and I'm pretty sure Shadow Priest wasn't the most broken spec in the game either. It also just took away that feeling of every spec being incomplete, good at something and bad at others, because as a Shadow Priest in vanilla I always struggled with AoE. No struggle here, just dot everything, kill 20 mobs at once, loot, repeat. Once again, just like with Nightmare Incursions, I have to ask, what kind of person somehow got a job working on Classic WoW at Blizzard and thought to themselves, this is worth experimenting with? Like, yeah, sure. What if we just copy a retail character into Classic with all of their power and see what happens? Maybe it's great. Okay, but what about the added content? Again, kind of bad. Let's talk about the leveling raids. BFD, Nomergan and Sunken Temple. What an absolute lineup. Who the hell picked these 3 dungeons? I swear they are the most mediocre and least loved dungeons in all of vanilla. People hate Nomergan, people hate Sunken Temple, and while people don't exactly hate BFD, it's just mid. And I know some of you freaks are going to go, but Sunken Temple is my favorite dungeon ever. Okay, King, I also think Stranglethorn Vale is maybe the worst zone in the game. We all have weird, unpopular opinions, but if you know anything about World of Warcraft, you know these dungeons are not well regarded on average. Meanwhile, at level 25, you could have used Shadowfang Keep. At 40, you could have used Uldaman. At 50, Marodon, Zul'Farrak or Blackrock Depths. Dungeons that are dramatically better and liked a lot more. It's honestly impressive that every bracket they somehow managed to pick the worst dungeon, the least liked dungeon. Anyway, in their implementation, BFD and Nomergan were okay. Sunken Temple was not. It wasn't well received. First of all because it is fucking Sunken Temple, second because it was overtuned. So we got a set of mediocre raids that weren't even that fun in exchange for being forced to stop leveling and raid log for months. Oh, and they also fucked the leveling. Almost forgot about that. Not only did SAD give us countless ways to level faster through Nightmare Incursions, XP buffs, and massively increased player power, but running these raids after they were no longer current content because, remember this is retail, gave us absolutely disgusting amounts of experience. Fast leveling, no danger in the world, invalidated progress, a fucked up economy. Yes, baby. That's vanilla. I have to say though, the new dungeons were really cool though, and I would like to see them in Classic Plus. But then you finally get to level 60 after a leveling experience that was completely broken and repeatedly interrupted my months of raid logging for some fucking reason, and the game did very little to solve the fact that it was mostly just raid logging again. Sure, there was more stuff to do than in vanilla. New reputations, new events, new grinds, new systems, but for me it all felt like more steps on the same treadmill, just a little bit longer until you cannot do anything but raid. Just like vanilla, just like TBC and everything after that. The hit levels in Molten Core, the giant meatball joke boss, it wasn't very compelling, you know? The new raids weren't that bad, honestly. What disappointed me more was how predictable Blizzard ended up being. When SOD was announced, a friend of mine and I did a little experiment. We asked ChatGPT what it thought the new level 60 raids will be. I shit you not, it said Karazhan Crypts and a Scarlet Crusade themed raid. And I wasn't surprised because no one was surprised, because everyone knew, because everyone said this is what they wanted. Because that's the most predictable stuff imaginable, and of course Blizzard did exactly that. That's actually one of the things I'm not looking forward to when it comes to Classic Plus. Because I know we're getting Mount Hyjal, we're getting Uldum, we're getting the Scarlet Enclave, we're getting Gilneas, we're getting the Ashara Crater Battleground. Okay, getting Gilneas, okay, maybe not for Gilneas, a vanilla Gilneas before the Cataclysm. I would really love to see that. I just realized I said Gilneas a million times in 2 sentences, but I love Gilneas. Anyway, those places are not bad, they're not, and I'm not against them being added to the game, but I would much rather see genuinely new content that still feels completely at home in vanilla. I think it will be a long time before we get much of that, because the initial focus of Classic Plus is 100% going to be, remember this? It was cool, wasn't it? Well, here it is for the 4th time.
Member.
Mount Hyjal.
Member. Hey, member.
Grim Battle.
Oh, I members.
Karazhan Crypts.
And unfortunately for me, and somewhat surprisingly to me, I seem to be in the minority here. But anyway, the level 60 raids themselves weren't bad, I'm not going to say that. Progress stopped being completely invalidated every phase, although it was still partially invalidated in ways that vanilla did not. The bigger issues were still the raid logging and the fact that I still didn't feel invested. Even if all the new content had been absolutely incredible, we're still talking about a few hours of raiding a week, followed by logging off. And all the while, you're fully aware that this entire version of the game is eventually going to die and be abandoned. So of course I wasn't excited to push harder. Level another character to 60 so I can raid log on not one but two characters, spend hundreds of hours building up characters that I already know won't matter a few months later, like characters that will eventually end up frozen on a dead server somewhere. And before someone says, but the servers are alive again, the Swordfresh community project, blah blah blah, first of all, it's not exactly setting the world on fire, okay? But even if it was, I still wouldn't find it that convincing because the original version died when it was the hottest thing and everyone was playing it. It died then, it will die again. Give it a few months, not even that many months. It all just felt like, okay, this is what we're doing this patch, then the next patch, okay, this is what we're doing this patch, and the next patch, okay, this is what we're doing this patch, forget everything before it. It's very gamey, it's very immersion breaking, and to be fair, vanilla has these problems too once you hit 60. I think that's one of vanilla's biggest weaknesses, and I hope Classic Plus addresses that big time, but SOD didn't fix that problem at all. What it did was keep it, then drag it down into the leveling experience as well and make it even worse. Instead of making the game feel more like an old school MMO, it made the entire experience feel more seasonal, more temporary, more focused on whatever Blizzard has decided was important that particular patch. And on top of that, it told us from day one that this wasn't really a world you were supposed to be part of long term. This wasn't a server that could become your home. This wasn't a character that you were going to care about for years. This isn't an old school MMO. It's a season, it's a temporary thing, a thing with an expiration date, and that completely changes how I look at the game. Because why would I get invested? Why would I care about building wealth? Why would I care about my reputation on the server? Why would I care about becoming stronger over months or years? The game itself was telling me not to do that. To me, Season of Discovery was the most flaccid vanilla WoW experience I've ever had. And don't look at me as a casual, don't look at me as a hardcore player, don't look at me as a parser, as a min-maxer. I'm just a guy who genuinely likes vanilla World of Warcraft. I want more of the things that vanilla did good. I want less of the things that vanilla did poorly. I want the bad parts trimmed away and the good parts expanded. And Season of Discovery did the exact opposite. Anyway guys, that was the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I expect a spicy comment section for this one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you liked the video. Give the video a like too. And if you did not like the video and you think Season of Discovery was the best thing ever, let me know so I can give you my address so you can come and kill me. Anyway, till next time.